What's up, YouTube? Episode 59.
50.
And it's going to be a great episode. We have Adina in the house, Etiana in the house.
And Allie's over there
My
tonight.
daughter's over there because there is a puppy with Etiana. And what's the dog's name?
Mila.
Mila.
Okay.
Mila.
Don't. I can't wait to go back on the YouTube and see her little her Made for More debut.
Yeah. If you want her to go around, Allie, you can stay on that side so she can go that way and not over the. There you go, Mila. Anyways, guys, episode 59. We got one more for 60. Today is the last episode with Iron Sharpened Leadership. So go pick up the book. It's gonna be good.
Yeah. What's our next book? Have you decided?
We haven't decided. I think you had one that we wanted. We just need to
Well,
decide.
yeah.
I know that in the running for it is Leading on Empty.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to do mindset, but I think it might be too much. It's a lot of science. Yeah. I don't know. I started looking through it and I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if it would be a good one.
Yeah. Well,
But
we're about to kick this off. YouTube. Mila is a cute dog. Yeah, you're on. Here we go. Ready?
I
3.
can't hear myself though.
What are you talking
Well,
about?
I'm telling you, I can't hear myself. I can't hear myself. I can hear myself here, but not here.
Are you sure?
Mario. Yes, I'm sure.
Try it again.
Okay, that's
Check.
that's better.
You can hear
Now
yourself.
I can hear you really well.
Check.
too.
I know that's gonna suck. The output is the same, but it's the.
Okay.
All right. As long as you're good. 3, 2.
I don't know how
One.
Jamie puts up with it.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Made for More Consulting Podcast, episode 59. Make sure you go check out YouTube. We are all about personal development and leadership, making sure that we help people reach the next level, not only individuals, but teams and also organizations. All about leadership, all about personal development. And today we are wrapping up the book, Iron Sharpened Leadership. Welcome back, Adina.
Glad to be back.
We were just discussing on YouTube. Go check it out. You get to see a cute puppy, and yeah, the only way you're going to see it is if you go to YouTube, Made for More Consulting, the number 4.
I think we should definitely have Mila as a post this week and Tiana. Somehow you can work. People love
our newest
puppies
team member.
and babies. So I think you can work a puppy into the Made for More
Her name's
post.
Mila, but I call her Mila.
You can do it.
Mila.
Mila says, join us.
Yeah. Go
On
check out.
Sunday night.
Go check that
For
out.
the next podcast.
Guys, we are wrapping up this book called Iron Sharpened Leadership. So if you haven't bought it, go check it out. Last week we gave instructions on how to receive one of these books for free. You just need to go listen all the way through and follow instructions. So if you haven't checked out our YouTube channel, go for it. We are getting ready to wrap this up. So if you've never listened, welcome. Go back and listen to
Episode number 1 and episode number 27.
7. There you go. Yes. Adina calls the shots. It's a little bit about Made for More and how we got started and where everything is coming from.
I feel like it's about time to record another episode that we can reference back to about Made for More.
Episode, yeah.
I mean,
we
you
could.
know, because I think that it's one of those things that as we grow and we change, I think we realize a little bit more about what is important to people and what things that we haven't shared
Yep.
that people might want to hear.
Yeah, episode 60 is going to be an episode with some pretty cool people. Very cool story, too. So, well, let's get back into the book. We don't read the entire book, and we just want to make sure that you understand that. So go buy the book if you haven't bought it. Iron Sharpened Leadership by John L. Grosky. The last section is on resilience.
Well, it's a pretty short section.
Very
By
short,
far,
yeah.
it is. I mean, I think it's only like 6 or 7 chapters, but
Yes.
like if you look at the book itself, it's only like a little tiny bit, you know. So it's a pretty short section.
Yeah.
But I definitely think resilience is probably one of the biggest traits of a leader that people don't talk about.
Yeah.
And I thought he did a really good job of putting it into words because it's kind of hard to say like be resilient.
Yeah, and he may sound a little bit repetitious in each chapter, but again, he reminds you about being resilient, and I think he does a really good job. So,
I do too.
there we go. Chapter 32, spiritual fitness. Obviously, this guy is a believer, but he's talking about just making sure that you have some kind of faith and that you continue to practice it. He tells a story about the chaplain. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I also like that in this chapter he talks about how, you know, you can have your faith, but knowing what they believe in is just as important, because
Exactly.
you can share that bond. So whether if you're not a believer that are listening, or if you know the people that you work with you are not believers, you can still do this spiritual fitness. You can still,
Yep.
and he talks a lot about like mindfulness and some of the other things that you can do, meditation. He even talks about going for a walk.
Yeah,
you
making
know?
sure you know that and know your team, like you said. So he talks about a story about a gunner that's on top of the roof and he's exposed, and you know, the chaplain's in there with him, and he says, "Hey guys, God's with us. Let's go." And that guy on top of the gunner basically says, "God, hey chaplain, I know that God's with you guys down there, but I don't think He's with me up here because He's exposed." Well, then an RPG comes up and explodes above that gunner's head. There's a lot of confusion and panic, and before you know it, everybody was going to make sure he was okay, the gunner, and the gunner was not harmed, nothing was wrong. And he says, quote, "I stand corrected, chaplain, God just arrived." And I thought that was great because, again, they said the chaplain had a great attitude and brought like a sense of morale to the team. There's a quote, the main component here that I read and took away was when he says this. He says, it is important for leaders to understand that their people have lives outside of work and environment, and many struggle with personal issues. These issues may include aging parents, an ill spouse, or a child or grandchild struggling with addiction. Many leaders may themselves be struggling with issues like that. Showing people you care about their struggle they are facing, is that the right thing to do? So basically, like you said earlier, just know your people.
Know your people.
Know what's going on in their lives. How would you say you get to know your people? I mean, because I think back in the day it was frowned upon to cross that line of being friends, but now I think the culture's changing to where you go, you want to invest in your people.
Well, I'm glad that you said that, because when I was reading this, I kind of felt like that. Like, he's telling you, like, it's okay to have a personal relationship with the people that you work with. And I didn't think about that, but you're right. Probably, 20 years ago, I think about like my parents, and,
Yep.
And when they were working in, what the secular world or the corporate America, they didn't have really like relationships with the people that they worked with. There were very few people that they really became friends with and they really knew about. I think that as a boss, when you called somebody into your office, it was all about metrics and what's happening here. It was not like, hey, like, how are you doing personally? How's your wife? How's your kids? And we've talked about that, I think, with every single book. Somewhere in there it talks about you have to know your people, you have to have a relationship with them. And I think that even when he's talking about that quote that you just read, that everybody could have issues going on, aging parents, ill spouse, I mean, the list goes on. And I think so many times, just in general, we forget that things happen outside of the workroom walls.
Yeah, and I think, again, just knowing your people, and again, one of the things that you said, you brought up, and it reminds me that if you're an OG boss or owner right now, I think you probably fight against going, well, why do we have to do this? Because we're here to work. Well, you're going to get more out of your people if, again, you change your mindset to go, I got to know my people, and you got to know each other.
I also feel like you're just a better human if I'm just real, like, it's kind of like a jerk move if you're like, I'm only going to use you for business. I don't really care about anything else you do outside of what you produce in this, in this building. That just doesn't work with me.
And I think it's that whole manipulation and influence. Anything can go back to that. So he says an easy way to do this is to ask your team and to get ready, but ask your team, how am I doing? Like, as a boss, how am I doing? Ask yourself, am I trying to get my way, or am I concerned about their lives? So again, manipulation or influence goes a long way. But the spiritual fitness, though, he's speaking to us to be in tune with God as leaders, so that when things arise, we're able to lead. So if you're someone of faith and you are leading a business, I think, again, you're going to have people with, like Adina said earlier, people with different circumstances in their life that you're in the position you are to help lead through life when life just happens in chaos, or something great happens, and maybe somebody wants you to be there when a child is born or when something takes off. And so I think for this is somewhat of an area that we provide as for our clients is Made for More. I remember it was kind of interesting when we were launching a certain location with one of our clients, and at the end of the meeting, one of their general managers said, "Hey, would you pray?" And it caught me off guard because I was like, "I'm not in church.
Why am I praying?"
Not the pastor, but they said we could pray, and so it was interesting to actually pray with the staff, but it was good. So, action steps, just creating a list of resources, I believe, to help your team and tell them about the importance of those resources. Like for me, I think of resources like whether it's financial peace, whether it's grief share, whether it's, there's some out there that are not faith-based, but you got AA, Celebrate Recovery, you have all kinds of stuff. What's the one for friends, or like if you're related to an addict?
Al-Anon.
Yeah.
Al-Anon, there you go. Like, have resources available just in case, because you never know, somebody may come in and ask for that.
Well, I also think that one of the things that I don't remember if it was this chapter or not, but he talked about having like somebody come into your team and talk about some of these things.
Yeah, that's right.
And help people process, just the idea that we understand there are other things going on, and there are things that you can do to help your mental health.
Yep. And I think that, man, I don't know. I believe that a company needs to not operate as a family, but operate as in, hey, we got to take care of each other. So,
for
offer
sure.
those things.
And because I think that whenever something's going on with one person on your team, if the other teammates can come around them and maybe produce a little bit more, it for sure you'll be a stronger team because of that.
So 32 is spiritual fitness, and I think more so again in the end, just know your people. Like, how well do you know your people? How well are you doing as a leader to support them? But the action step pretty much is just create a list of resources to help your team, whether it's counselors, doctors, insurance help, whatever it is. Help them and ask them, how's it going? What do you need? So that's chapter 32. Chapter 33, the resilient leader. If we're to put this chapter in a simple way, I think he just says it, tough times create tough leaders. Adversity is going to be in all of our stories, and the way we lead through this is how we develop, or how we're developed as leaders.
Well, I thought that was a really good point. He talked about, like, it's not if adversity is going to come, it's when.
Yep.
That all leaders are going to face adversity at some point, and how you handle it is what distinguishes you between, I don't want to say a good leader and a bad leader, but, I'm sure he used a much better term, but for sure.
Yeah, but I think in the adversity, in the struggle is how we find out who we are as a leader and where we develop. So, again, keep that in mind. I know he talked about, again, the way you respond in tough times is how your staff's going to respond, right? So when you're in chaos, and if Adina's chaotic and stressed, then the three of us are going to be chaotic and stressed because we're trying to follow you. But if you're cool, calm, and collected, you can turn around and help us be cool, calm, and collected. And over time, as things start to come up, when adversity comes up again, because it will, you teach your team to go, hey, take a deep breath, look around, and make a call. Just relax. So, I think that's good.
Well, and this is the chapter where he talked about how when you see, okay, never mind, that's the next chapter.
What is it?
We'll wait. I went and press on, where he talks about, like, when you see when you come into adversity, like, instead of letting it slow you down, let that build your momentum.
Oh, yeah,
That's
okay,
another
okay.
chapter. I was thinking
See,
that was
but he
the
talks
chapter.
about three components as a resilient leader. He talks about having positive energy. No one wants to follow someone that's negative, because if you're negative, I think, again, people are just going to go, man, we're not going to make it. So, but I think of the guy that landed the plane in the Hudson River, and when it took off and everybody survived. You got to stay positive. You can't be negative. You can't think of all the negative things. Number two, he said fitness, not just physical fitness.
Right. He talks about, like, it physically, but also emotionally, mentally, and spiritually.
Yeah. So
like,
if you're going to be resilient, you got to learn to detach and not get all wrapped up in emotions.
for sure.
Right? And then vulnerability, stepping out and taking a chance. Like, what is it that your team needs to see you do? So you got to be positive. You got to have, again, emotional, spiritual, physical fitness, mental fitness, and then vulnerability. Like, what does your team see? What do they see you doing that is taking a chance and allowing them to grow with you? So that's a resilient
And
leader.
one of the quotes he says, a great leader does not need to be great all the time, just when it matters.
Yep.
And I thought that was a great reminder of just how important it is for you to stay focused and to stay, like he talks about, being positive and whenever things are going wrong.
So in adversity, do you think that the leader is the only one that should make a call?
No.
Okay. I just think that sometimes in adversity you find out who your team players are that probably can outthink you or that have a better idea than you.
Well, I think sometimes in adversity, this is something that I don't think that you and I have talked about, like just as a leadership thought, is that in adversity, I think sometimes you see what your leader really is, what kind of leader you really have, because sometimes they get panicked and they go into like this tunnel vision go
yeah.
mode,
Mm-hmm.
and they make all the decisions, and
Yeah.
they don't ask their team to put in
Yeah.
any thoughts or. And I think that's interesting. I think the job of a leader is to stay cool, calm, and collected. But I also think you still have to train your team. And just because you as a leader are feeling panic, your team might not feel that same pressure that you feel as a leader, and they might be able to have some, different thoughts, different ideas, because they don't have the same pressure. And so
Yeah.
I would say when you're in that, if something happens, if you can take a deep breath and think about, as a leader, how can I allow my team, I think that's part of being vulnerable, to come alongside me in this, and let's walk together through this rough time.
Yeah, and I think like if you're in a school of 5,000 kids, if the principal had to make every decision, if there's a fight in the classroom, are you going to wait till he gets there? No, the teacher has to make the call. If there's something going on in the school, I would hope the teachers understand, hey, you're the lead, take the lead. The principal doesn't have to do it all. The counselors don't have to do it all. And I think that's really good, because as a principal or as that leader, as an owner, or whatever role you play, you should always try to keep that bird's eye view to go, I'm trying to see out what's coming, because we're in the middle of a storm, but look what's just ahead. Hey, can you make this call? Can you do this? And so,
well, and maybe just like in that situation, if you can delegate some of those other things so you can focus on what's going on, take some things off your plate.
You're right. I think one of the, I'll have Etienne make this note, but Jocko Podcast 318, but with Micah Fink, it's M-I-C-A-H, Fink, F-I-N-K, former Navy SEAL, former CIA. Man, he goes off probably around an hour and 30 minutes into the podcast, and he goes on for about 30 minutes. But he talks about this, that the fact that when soldiers come home for PTSD, or someone has a traumatic situation in their life, or someone comes out of addiction and is doing great, but they're given medication, they're given all these things, Micah believes that you've taken some of their identity away because they're in adversity. So when you cover adversity up with medication, with, hey, relax, you lose a little bit of who you are, because you are on cruise control going, oh, I don't need to think about this. No, I'm not depressed. No, I'm not anxious. And he's saying you need to dig into that and figure out how to fight your way out of it, because in the fight is where you find out who you are. He said, instead of sitting down, and he says it, he said, most of us spend 15 to 20 years in front of the TV when it's all said and done. And he said, what if you just took one of those 15 years and put it in personal development? How do you figure out how to get out of a bad spot? But right now, everybody in the world wants to just have it. They want to be out of the storm quick, because they're gonna take something, or they're gonna go see somebody. And he goes, no, it takes a fight. Like, you have to figure out how to handle adversity, or else you're not gonna learn how to live. You're just.
Well, I think for sure our culture right now says, let's take the easiest way out.
And we're gonna try to. I want to put a quote out by him, and he just said, stop buying the easy way out that the world's selling. I don't know how he says it, but I'll figure it out. He just said, stop buying what the world's selling you, the easy way out, because it's not the easy way.
Well, and I think about our kids, like if like that, you would never tell your kids, just take the easy way out. No. Just cheat on your homework and take the easy way out. No, you want them to go through it, learn the lesson, but yet when it comes to us, we're like, let's just take the easy way out.
Let's just stay with our signal light turned, waiting for the first spot at HEB. That pisses me off. Like, someone's not even finished unpacking their grocery or putting their groceries in the car, and you got one or two guys with their signal light on trying to get that first parking spot. When I go, if you would have parked at the back, by the time they would have finished, you would have been in and out. And my daughter Sam knows that, because when I take her to school, I go, look, everybody's waiting for the front parking spot. We've already parked, walked in and already left. And she goes, well, they should have just parked back here.
That's right.
Don't take the easy, just avoid the easy how do we say that? There's a saying, the path of least resistance is what people take. Quit
Oh, for
taking
sure.
the path of least resistance, because you're gonna lose who you are. Anyways, action step. I'm sorry. That was it. That was the Resilient Leader, chapter 33. Gosh. Chapter 34.
Is press on. This is the chapter where he talks about how when you come into something hard.
How do you press on?
Yeah, like allow that to create momentum. And
Yep.
so he talks about the example he uses was when he's cycling and he comes up to a
Yes.
hill, he intensifies,
Yes.
to like run up the hill.
Yep.
And I thought that was such a good picture of, when something goes wrong or when something's hard,
Yep.
don't just,
back down.
don't hem haul. Yeah,
Yep.
go for it.
Yep.
Invest more energy
Yeah, because
to
you
make
gotta
it
find
happen.
out who you are in that moment. And again, one of the most popular videos that Jocko put out, I keep referencing Jocko, but it's the good video. And that's the reason I want to get this freaking tattooed on my arm is he talks about, and that's the next tattoo I'm getting, but
Let's
he talks about.
Let's do a podcast at the tattoo place.
You think that you
Oh,
would
he
come
would.
over here?
Yeah.
And do it here?
Well, no, we'll talk about that off.
Okay. Either way, maybe we can go, maybe we'll have the tattoo
We'll go to side.
podcast. Anyways, Jocko's term is good, and he says that one of his subordinates came in and said, "Hey, we got a problem," and he says, "Good," and they're like, "Why is it good?" He goes, "Because now we get to train more." He said, "You busted your ankle up." He says, "Good, you get to rest a little bit," or "Hey, you tapped out in practice, good, because tapping out on the street sucks because you may die." He said, "You got to find the good in every situation, because if you don't, you lose the momentum that this guy's talking about."
Well, it's the idea of like no matter what it is, there's always an opportunity in there, which he talks about in here about being positive, and I think that's what Jocko is saying. Like,
Exactly.
find the positive, be positive in it.
And no one wants to follow a Debbie Downer.
That's for sure.
Yeah, and generate adversity from the challenge, and don't allow the challenge to generate momentum against you. So not adversity, generate positivity from the challenge, but don't let the momentum of the adversity come against you, because again, like you said, you're going to roll back down the hill rather than going up the hill.
Yes.
And again, another quote: "Dictate the situation, don't allow the situation to dictate you."
Yes, make it happen.
Yep. A lot of people are going to watch you. So, action step: who's your role model when it comes to handling adversity? Who can you look at and say, "Hey, how do they handle adversity? How do they do this?" Because some of us don't handle adversity very well.
That's
and
a
some of us
really
do.
good question, because I also feel like so many people, when something like adversity comes into their lives, they don't share like what's going on. Like they almost like kind of deflect, and even in an organization, like how many leaders
Yep.
don't share the adversity that's going on, within. They keep it to themselves, and so how do you see that?
Yeah, and in organizations, it's interesting because I think that when adversity comes in certain departments, maybe the leader knows how to handle it, maybe the coworker doesn't, or maybe the coworker knows how to handle it because she or he's handling it day to day, and the leader's freaking out, and they're going, "No, check this out, just breathe." And so you're that calm in the storm, but you're teaching your leader, or your leader's teaching you. So I mean, that's what I'm saying is, who is it that's handling adversity? Maybe go and tell them, "Hey, I've seen the way you handle this. It's an encouragement. Tell me how." But don't also give up on yourself to go, "I can't change," or "I can't do this." No, you can. It's just in the moment you're going to have to step back, which we call detachment, and just realize that, hey, I got to stop panicking, because in the end, not everything is an emergency. So
For sure. I think about, I think it was in one of the Simon Sinek books that we read, how he would talk about in the corporate America, how they would come down and they would say, "We're going to fire 55 people, and so many people are getting a pay cut," and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that to me is a great example of probably the CEO that didn't share the adversity that was going
Yep.
on. He didn't walk through that with the people, and so he had all this stuff going on, and then boom.
Yep. And then versus someone who's on his financial team that says, "Hey, we're
Right.
all going to take a 10% cut," and it's the same thing as
Yes.
firing 75 people.
Well, and even I think it was like Southwest was one of the
Yep.
ones that they said.
Yeah.
He said, "This is what's happening. This is what we're going to do. We're in this," and it's a totally different mindset.
Yeah, and panic kills morale versus where, like you said, detachment is going to encourage the team going, "Wow, we're not firing anybody, but we're all taking a pay cut. I'd rather have a job than be without work."
Well, and negativity. So many times when adversity hits,
Yep. That's right.
people just instantly become negative.
Yeah, I hate that. I'm sure I get that way too sometimes. So, yeah, resiliency exemplifies. Chapter 35. Resiliency exemplifies.
I loved this story.
He tells of a camp that was destroyed by a hurricane, and the board of directors met to decide what to do. And through the meeting, they all weren't sure until someone said, and here's a quote: "We are asking the wrong question. We should not be asking whether to go on or not. The only question we should be asking is, how do we go on?"
Well, I thought that was so good because, he talked about how they had this board and they said, should we go on? Mm-hmm. And everybody went around the room and said no and why they should not go on. Yeah. And then it was the last person that said, we should be asking how. And then he gave this speech, and then of course everybody's like, let's go on. But what I loved about this was what they decided to do was they raised $4,000 and they decided to buy like a saw, some kind of sawmill.
Yep.
And then they took all the wood from what the hurricane had destroyed and then they reused it. And they rebuilt it. And I thought, that is a great leader. That is someone who thought outside of the box. I mean, and that way we're like, how can we make this happen?
Yeah.
Stop telling me what we're not going to do and tell me how we're going to make it happen.
So people are looking at the adversity, right?
I've said that like 4 times today.
And that's what I'm saying.
So annoying.
Is it sounds like adversity, decisions, the storm, the chaos, whatever it is, has the opportunity for you to step up as a leader or to step into the negativity. And like he's saying, he thought of a way out, but it all started with our why. Like whether it's the Boys and Girls Club or whatever we're going, that's our why. Don't shut this down. Our why is always going to be there. How do we get past it? Not whether should we do it or not. No, we are doing this. How do we just do this?
When I like that in this story, he was reading like a plaque of like a camp that he was at. And I love that they honored like that person with that story because they saw that was a defining moment, in their camp.
And I would say if you're the leader and you aren't the person that comes up with maybe you are the negative person and someone on your team reminds you of the why, man, honor that person and just say thank you. But again, it's ego. Remove the ego and take ownership, saying, man, he or she, thank you for your ideas and thoughts because you've reminded me of why we're doing what we're doing.
And let's move forward.
Move forward. Don't stay in a storm. Chapter 36.
Yes, is look out the windshield.
Look out the windshield.
I've heard that. Like, don't look in your rearview mirror. Things are smaller in your rearview mirror. They're bigger in the windshield. There's all kinds of analogies and sayings about that.
I think this week I was told I may speak soon, and I think this is kind of where I'm headed. Is look out the windshield. You have to use the rear view mirror to see what's coming or where you've come from, but you gotta look out the windshield because it's bigger.
And if you spend all your time looking at the past in the rear view mirror, you're not going to go anywhere.
No, you might as well just put it in reverse and start going down. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's interesting because at first glance I thought this chapter was about failures, not defining our future, but it's completely opposite. He's talking. So you and I were just talking about failures. But he's talking about Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite. Like, hey, if I was only put in at state, or hey, I could throw this football over that mountain if coach would have only put me in. He's talking about don't let success paralyze you in your past, because you can say, oh, I was this great pitcher, or I was this great quarterback, or I was this great track star, or I was this great teacher. And all of a sudden, you've allowed yourself to be paralyzed because you're not in that anymore, and your attitude you're stuck.
And
I'm a hero.
That's one of my biggest pet peeves, though, is like you have this. I actually have friends from high school, from a million years ago, that still talk about like what they did in high school, and I'm like, dude.
Do they wear the leather jacket?
Let's move on.
Yes.
But this was the one where he talked about. Oh goodness gracious, what was I going to say about that? I was just reading through that.
On the past.
Then I started thinking about the story, and I got a little frustrated.
The attitude to watch out here is that I am the hero. Like, that ego and attitude will put you back because your team's going to go, oh great, here comes the high school quarterback that hasn't forgotten that he wishes he would have been put in state or whatever. So don't allow your past success to lead you, though. You use them to train and share others, but you can't let it define who you are or where you're going.
So this is what I was going to say, and I love this because this was a chapter where when he asked the question, he said he asked an author, like, what book are you most proud of?
Oh,
And and the author said, the next one I'm going to write.
Yeah.
And I was like mind blown because
Yeah.
I feel like that is a totally different mindset than, okay, be proud of the one that you're before and then, move on.
Mhm.
No, like he was always striving to be more proud of the next book, to do a better job in the next book.
That's right.
And I like that.
Yeah.
And so I thought, how can I take that, like that thought of always, wanting to do the next thing.
Yeah. That's
and
good.
to keep that out front.
But it's hard for people to focus on that because you're so focused on success. And like you said, it's not failure, it's success. Like you had a good book. Well,
Great.
why are you focused on it? Now focus on the next
Move
one.
on. Yeah, let's go.
So before we go to the action step, again, we're quoting Micah Fink again from Jocko Podcast 318. He went on to say, and he's not hating on past militaries because he is a former SEAL and CIA, but he's trying to tell them, dude, what happened in 2005 it's 2022. You're bigger than that. You're made for more than that. And he's telling them, you need to get past that because no one's there anymore. You're the only one there. And he's trying to tell people the choices you're deciding right now because of your past, no one cares. What they care about is who you are and what you're trying to bring into the world. And he tells them, he's going, you know what, you're the best thing that happened in this world, but you're not allowing the world to see it because you're stuck in the past, even if it was good.
Yes.
But he's pretty intense. He's off the grid.
I might listen to him if I
Micah
can
Fink.
start at an hour and 30 minutes in.
Yeah, because he talks about his past and how he got there. But Micah Fink, really pretty intense dude, cowboy, breaks in horses and wild Mustangs. He takes men on a 41-day cleansing program where they're away from everything in the snow, in the ice, on horses.
See, I'm like, to me that sounds amazing. I'm like, let's go.
Yeah. So
But-
action step.
I'm like, this sounds so fun.
Action step on looking out the windshield. Are you going after new goals? Are you living through the past with success? You got to answer that. So if you don't have new goals, sit down and think through, who do I want to be this year and who do I want to be in this situation, this role, my relationships, and go after some new things.
Which is so interesting because we've talked about this before, that I am not a big gratitude person
Yeah.
because I don't live in the past. Like, it is even hard for me to say I'm thankful for this and I'm thankful for that because I'm always thinking about the future, but I also don't get stuck in that. Like, I'm not like a woe is me because I don't even think about now.
Yeah.
And so whatever, like, let's go.
Let's move.
Like, what are we doing here?
That's good. Yeah.
Don't live through past success, people. Think about the future.
Look in
Let's
freedom
go.
windshield.
Yes.
Chapter 37, Flight of Freedom. This chapter to me was, again, going back to Simon Sinek's Leaders Eat Last. It's all about we over me. There is no I in team. It takes a team to create a path during adversity. It takes a team and community to create growth and encouragement. He's just talking about the fact that, again, there is not one single person that's going to make something happen. Even in golf, even in tennis, you still need a team to help you overcome adversity, to go through adversity, to create the path through adversity. You may be the leader and know where you want to go, but the path of adversity takes different people to get through it. And he, again, just continues to talk about we over me. So teamwork. Basically, all 37 is about teamwork.
Yeah, and this was a really short chapter. There was one quote that I feel like he has said a couple of times, but I liked how he said it here. He said, leaders must have the courage to make decisions with less than perfect information,
That's
exhibit
right.
resiliency, assist their followers with becoming more resilient, which I love that part, and demonstrate strong character and adhere to their core values, especially during tough times.
Yeah, just make a call. And even if, like you said, allow things to develop, tell your people, communicate, hey, I'm going to allow this to develop, but here's what we're going to do. We're waiting, or hey, we're about to make this call. Chapter 38, man, these are going quick, but chapter 38, remaining calm during the storm. I feel like we've said this before, but again, the resilient leader, this whole section, resiliency, is all about your attitude during a storm or during adversity. Easily put, and we said it before already, dictate the situation, don't allow the situation to dictate you. An example of this is how COVID-19 shut us all down that year. It kept us all home, drove up anxiety and fear, and he talks about that. But I think for me is, I'm just using me as an example. One of our most watched videos on Made for More's Facebook was during COVID-19. I think I went through one of Jordan Peterson's class during COVID-19, and we were working. I mean, we were
still
working, right? We were still working from home, but I thought, I'm going to learn. I'm going to paint this room. We're going to do upgrades to the house. Don't allow adversity to freaking stop.
And it's so funny because you could really see the people. They're like total on social media, but you could see people that took that route, that like remodeled their houses, and they did a lot of
was
things.
Always busy.
Yeah, they did. They did a lot of things that they had been putting off. They spent time with with their family. And I think it's right. I think that was the people that said, I'm going to make the best of this instead of the opposite and letting all of this fear and anxiety, take over. You have no excuse not to exercise during COVID-19. You know, I'm like, get outside in the garage. I mean, what else do you do?
So when we say dictate the situation, don't let the situation dictate you. Why do you think that people focus on what they can't control rather than what they can control?
Why do I think they focus on what they can't?
So let's say something happens, COVID-19 makes a huge outbreak again, and I panic rather than.
But I think that's it, is that they live in that panic zone.
Yeah.
Like that, I mean, that's what they cannot focus on anything because they can't, because they're in that like fight or flight mode. And that's what happens to people.
You need to use that fight or flight mode for something else. Just think through that. You have the ability and power to do what you want to do in this country.
Yes, and that's hard because I feel like I don't live in that mode, and I almost am. It's very hard for me when other people are in that mode because I just don't like.
Yeah, you want to shake them out of it.
Go, because I think if you're moving forward, then you can't get stuck there.
Yeah, and you want people to see that they're free. Like, hey, you are free to do this. You're free to read a book. You're free to go to college. You're free to do whatever you want. Just make the choice. Like, move
But they're
forward.
so focused on what they can't do. Like, I don't know, go to the grocery store. I don't, whatever it was, because things weren't normal.
Yeah.
Panic set in.
We'll all have tough days coming. It's about how we respond and how we grow through that. If we don't do anything, we'll go backwards. And again, when you go backwards, you grow in depression and anxiety. And I still believe to this day, I mean, I know students that we worked with, and I think I was driving down the street and I heard Jordan Peterson, Dr. Jordan Peterson, talking about something, and it clicked for me to go, you have the veterans that have PTSD, you have people that lived in the greatest generation ever lived, you have people that have gone through all those things, and then you have the younger generation right now, and I feel that the students I've worked with is that they have an expectation of what life is supposed to be like, but when they hit 18 and they don't have a job, the depression, anxiety, that's the gap, is I didn't know it was supposed to be this way, and they hit a wall called life. And how to meet them there is tough because they get anxious about things that they can still control. But if we don't help our kids and the next generation learn that, again, hard work, you're gonna have to do the work.
Well, and things are going to be hard, and I think that we have so many parents that want to protect their kids from hard things, and so we don't want things to be hard for our kids. And so, and I'm like, that's not how life is. Like, I think that you have to let your kids be in situations that they feel uncomfortable, that they can make. We like how we say it in our houses. We want them to be in a situation while they still have kind of like the boundaries of home and kind of that place, the safety net of home. And so, like, when you're in high school, I'm going to let you get in some situations that you might make the wrong decision so you can see how it feels and you can be uncomfortable and you can then come home and we can talk about it. Then not ever having that conversation, never being in those situations, and then being 20 and all of a sudden you have all of this freedom and you get in a hard situation and you don't know what to do. And you panic. And most of the time, that's when you make the wrong decision.
And I think the one thing I don't do well in this is ask right then and there, what do you have control over? Like, in this moment, whether you're complaining about throwing the trash or cleaning your room, what do you have control over? Well,
your attitude.
Your attitude, you can get up there and start cleaning. And you can get your phone back because you can go do work. And so I think the thing is again, we're all going to have adversity, but you got to take what you can and run with what you have. And again, don't allow the situation to dictate you, because when you do, your emotions are tied up into that. You're just so tied up into that. So.
Well, he said it a million times, but I think that this is the be positive part. Focus on the positive, focus on what you can do, and just do it.
So the action step is identify if you're moving forward at all right now. So I have a couple of people I'm working with, and that was one of the questions: is like, what are you doing for personal growth? Like, what are you doing for personal growth? Well, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. Okay, but are you? You get action steps from it, but are you doing them? No. Okay, so now the next step is yes, you're doing personal growth, but you need to take action steps. So right now, identify: am I moving forward or not? And if not, what's keeping you from moving forward? Remain calm and just move. Like, start to put one foot in front of the other. Don't worry about what everyone else is doing. And when it comes to a not a corporation, an organization or a business, what we try to do is try to tell people, who cares about your competition right now? If you're getting better yourself, your team's getting better, that's all that matters, because you're moving forward. They're looking at you, and it's that famous picture of Michael Phelps swimming, and the guy in second, or
Just looking over
yeah,
at him.
the guy in second
Yeah.
place is looking over at him to see where he's at. He's already passed you, bro, because he's focused on
Because
his
he's
role.
looking ahead.
Yes, exactly.
Yep, that's a good one.
So, chapter 39, is this the last one?
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you
Every dog
right
is-
here. I was like, I done. I'm not listening to this. I'm not reading this. I didn't like it. I just stopped right here. Done.
Yeah.
Because it was about how they had like the bait dog, and they would cut her face, and then they would allow the other dogs to attack her, and they were like, it was because he got this dog, and the dog was so traumatized of all
Maybe
these
I fell asleep.
horrible,
Things
and then
that
they
happen.
bred her over and
Oh, yeah.
over and
Yeah, they
over.
bred her over
But it
and
was
over
the
and over again.
it was the bait dog where they cut her and made her bleed, and then allowed the fighting dogs to train with her. And then he adopts her, and then he goes and he takes them into these soldiers, and he tells the soldiers like her story. I was like, I can't. I'm done.
Yeah.
I cannot. You're talking about dogs, and this is too much. And I stopped it. So I don't know what else he said in this chapter.
Well, it ends in a good way.
Nope. Mm-mm.
So sometimes we have to walk through tough times, and coming out of those tough times may require forgiveness and sacrifice. Yeah.
And then he puts a picture of the dog.
Oh yeah. It's completely healthy.
I cannot. But she cannot be around other dogs. I mean,
Yeah.
I can get stuck on the dog here. But I did think it was really cool that he ended up adopting a dog that had very strong PTSD
Yeah.
from what he'd been through. And then he would go in and use that same story with the soldiers.
About forgiveness, though, that you have to forgive other people for you, not for them. Because she moved on. That dog moved on. And she learned to love people again.
Because he says, focusing on bitterness of defeats or unfairness simply saps energy from the ones who remain bitter.
Yeah.
So, yes.
So if you're going to learn to forgive, it's one of the things that we learned in recovery is that forgiveness is not for them, it's for you, right? To let go.
Mhm.
And at some point, you got to learn to let go.
I'm just going to say, if this chapter had been at the beginning of the book, I would not have read the book.
Whatever. It was a good book.
It was a really good book. I just don't want to talk about
The dog.
abusing
Okay,
dogs.
so action step for this last chapter. Are there areas you want to give up on because of what other people have done? Or something that you've done to other people and you can't forgive yourself? And the second question follow-up is, have you offered forgiveness for them and for you? So, yeah.
Well, and like that quote said, that if you were bitter, then like that takes all of your energy away. Like you cannot live in that angry, bitter like world.
Yeah,
You
because
just
all you're
can't.
doing is trying to get back at somebody.
You just can't.
Yep. Yeah,
I agree.
That's good. So that was a great book. Again, if you want this book for free, go listen to what we said last week, episode 58.
58
And
was last
just
week.
listen to the whole thing, and in there we give you how you can.
That's
Are
right.
you giving yours away?
Yeah.
And I'm giving mine away.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Did you write yours?
I did.
So did I.
I did. I mean, I underlined and made like notes, but not,
Adina
it's-
autographed her book, so. you can have her.
I probably
Book
did
back,
actually.
yeah.
Wrote my name on it.
She wrote her name in it, and then she autographed John L. Gronsky. Pretend he autographed.
I guess I did not write my name in it. You can tell the things I really liked because they are double highlighted. That was like, oh, I need to really make sure I say this.
Yeah. So make sure you go listen back to 58 and figure out how you get a copy of this for free. The first 2 people that follow those instructions will get 2 free books. But it's a great book. John L. Gronsky, Iron Sharpened Leadership, another book down. And that's the first one of the year, correct? First book
I feel
of
like
the
we
year.
should start. Another one bites the dust.
Yeah. Yeah, and guys, just remember these. You can go back and you can share these episodes with your leaders and say, hey, they covered this book. I think we need to read this book. I still say that out of all these books that we've read over the last year, this is probably the most underrated book. And I think that as a leader, you could go through this book with your team.
And I think you should. I think that, I mean, we kind of talked about at the beginning of this episode. I think the only thing you could probably do each chapter, the only thing I would do different is the resilience, the third section.
Yeah.
I think you could condense it with your team.
Yep.
But yeah, I think it'd be a great book to, if you do like morning huddles or meetings, I think you could find a few chapters and read some quotes and ask some questions and do the action steps, and it would be some great leadership lessons for your team.
Agreed. So, guys, that was it. Next week, we will have a great interview with a couple people. One of the coolest stories since Made for More has been around. We get to share that with you guys. I'm excited because, again, it's crazy.
It's cool. It's gonna be a cool story.
It's a crazy story. So, yeah. So you don't want to miss it. They're from out of state, and you'll just want to hear it, how they found us, and it's a live interview. So make sure you listen to that. Make sure you visit our website, www.madeformoreconsulting.com. The number 4, go on there, follow us on Instagram, social media, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can listen to our podcast from there. You can follow us, you can rate us, leave us a review. Also find us on YouTube. And remember, you can just continue to use these podcasts to help develop you as a leader and develop you as a person. And I think after this interview, we'd like to have a Q&A, and we will put out a couple posts between now and then. That would probably put it out 3 weeks to just say, what kind of questions do you have? Personal growth questions, leader questions. I think one of the things that we sometimes don't cover enough of is the volunteer side of it. I know me and my wife talked about that. Volunteer, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not paying attention as I go.
No, I was letting you finish.
But the volunteer side of it, if you're a leader and you work with volunteers, obviously you're not paying them. So how do you coach volunteers? How do you grow volunteers? How do you provide things for volunteers to just grow in? So, yeah. What else am I missing? Merch on our website.
Yeah. So follow us on socials.
We already said that.
Okay.
Anything else? Oh, it's buy one get one half off on all Jocko energy, and you can if you need. Here it goes. If you go to originmain.com, origin, ORIGIN.com, and you purchase anything from there, use the coupon code, all caps, Morales10, MORALES.
Oh, we have a code.
10.
We're so fancy.
Whatever. I'm a what do you call it? Brand ambassador for him, for Jocko.
Well, how come you didn't do like Made for More? Why did you do Morales?
Because I do have it to where we have Made for More Consulting. It has to have a webpage with Origin on it, and so I'm working on that right now as we speak. So
You think Etienne's working on it?
I'm saying I'm trying to submit the LLC to Origin to go, hey, we are a for-profit company that wants to use Origin on our website. They have to approve of it. So they approved me as an individual. Now they got to approve us as a company.
Okay.
So
okay.
we're
just
and
checking.
once we get that, Etienne can create the webpage.
See.
But it's go to origin.com. Origin, I think, did I say Origin?
Mm-hmm.
Origin.com. Use the coupon code Morales10, MORALES 10, and you'll get a percentage off. But all the energy drinks right now are buy one get one half.
Well, there you go. So now
I'm trying to sell stuff on this
I
website.
know. I'm like, what is going on here?
Anyways, guys, I appreciate you guys listening to us. And thank you again for just continuing to help our podcast be successful. And let us hear from you if it helps. And just remember, we exist for more. We're here to offer more. Don't ever give up. Every single one of us is made for more. We'll talk to you guys later. I always wait for you to say later, guys.
Well, try to say good night or bye or bye YouTube.
YouTube. Peace out, homies.